HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams and, yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are the things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
Between bad calls and intense rivalries, there's enough to stress about on game day. Keep your mind on the field and off your body odor with Dove Men Plus Care Whole Body Deodorant. Available at Walmart. Dove Men Whole Body Deo provides all-day odor protection from your pits, privates to feed. From pregame analysis to halftime insights to unexpected overtimes, Dove Men Whole Body Deo gives you confidence that lasts all day. Pick it up at your local Walmart.
Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Nick Stevens. Our co-host Bob Phelan is out for this episode. We hope to have him back next week. But we have a lot to discuss on tonight's episode, as the Orioles will have to make some big decisions next week about who to protect from the Rule 5 draft with a 40-man roster spot. It's a deep list this year with seemingly only one lock, and we're going to talk about that on tonight's episode. But first, Orioles on the Verge is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC and MMA, head to BetOnline today to get on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. We are now at that time of year where the Orioles and all 29 other teams have to figure out who they're going to protect from the Rule 5 draft with a spot on their 40-man roster. Now, as a quick refresher, if a team puts a player on their 40-man roster, they're protecting them from the major league phase of the Rule 5 draft, which is when, if a player is selected, the team choosing them either has to carry them on the roster for the entirety of the season or offer them back to their original organization. So a lot of times a player chosen in the Rule 5 draft might stick in the majors all year despite not having the numbers to stay there, or they might not make it through spring training with their new team. And any number of those scenarios can happen around baseball in a given year. For the Orioles in the last few years, again, this was one part of the offseason that was a big date for us. We would be breaking down players who would or wouldn't get protected. We'd often have 5 or 6 guys to sort through with a lot of open 40-man roster spots. As the team has become more competitive, though, those 40-man roster spots are harder to come by, which is why last year the Orioles didn't protect anyone leading up to this deadline. This offseason, we think it's going to be different, but Nick, you and I talked about this ahead of time, and we feel like even though it's a pretty deep class, you have one lock with some interesting questions beyond that.
Yeah, I think it's just one lock. It's a pitcher. I think there's one pitcher that we can have a little bit deeper conversation about. And other than that, there are a couple more arms that you talk about for like 10 seconds, but I don't think they're going to get protected. And yeah, my big thing with a lot of these arms, though, I think a lot of them, due to injuries and whatever, that they're in kind of weird situations where they don't need to be protected. They're not going to be selected. But you are going to have to protect, I think, a pretty big group in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. And I mean, that takes place obviously right after the major league phase. And that, like, there's also a minor league protection list. It's not a public list. We sometimes get our hands on it, but there's really no surprises as to who's protected and not protected on that list as well. And there's no roster requirements in the minor league phase either. You pay like what, 10 grand or 15 grand. You can put them in the FCL, you can put them in the DSL, you can put those guys wherever you want. They are yours until they're obviously continue to be Rule 5 eligible, but no roster requirements there. I think that's the area where I think the Orioles are going to lose a couple of guys, as they typically do. And this is where I think the decision to who to protect and who not to protect, which, I mean, we're not really going to get into the minor league phase here, obviously. But I think that's where the deeper conversations are going to take place. But yeah, I mean, even if we just look at the hitters first, I don't know how you wanted to go in that direction, but like you look at the list of hitters, I got absolutely nothing in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's actually a good place to start because we should acknowledge up front that this is a pitcher heavy class. And there are some players that provide good organizational depth that are on the list this year. So I'm looking at TT Bowens. Noelberth Romero has been a guy the Orioles have kind of plugged around different spots. This time last year, we were debating whether or not Hudson Haskin would be protected. I think we're kind of past that point now. But again, that's solid AAA outfield depth. The one guy that I think might have made an interesting case for himself could have been Reed Trimble. But injuries have just taken their toll on him to this point in his career. And even that brief, what was it, maybe a month or two this past season where it looks like, all right, Reed Trimble's now establishing himself. He gets up to Bowie, barely in Bowie, back on the IL, ends up missing the rest of the season. So there's this, when it comes to the hitters in this group, the Orioles already made that decision. They added Kobe Mayo with a 40-man roster in the season. That was really it out of the position players that you would risk losing to other teams.
Yeah, it's Maverick Hanley, who you probably maybe protect in the minor league phase, but Maverick Hanley, Connor Pavoloni, TT Bowens, I think is like a minor league priority protector. Be your everyday first baseman down there in Norfolk. Shane Fontana, Noelberth Romero, I don't think they were protected last year in the minor league phase and didn't get picked. Colin Burns, Luis Valdez, Anthony Servideo, Hudson Haskin, you mentioned Trimble. John Rhodes, I think, is an unfortunate story there. We talked about Elio Prado as well. That's the hitters. I guess there's no one. Again, if maybe on the minor league side, I try to protect for sure TT Bowens, maybe Servideo. He's good AAA defensive depth down there in Norfolk. Reed Trimble, I think you protect as well on the minor league side. He's not going to get picked in the major league side, and maybe just hope that. I thought he played a lot more than he did last year, but I looked earlier this morning and yeah, it was only like 40 or 50 games this year. Did get promoted to Bowie, but I think immediately it was like a hamstring issue in Bowie. Maybe you hope you don't protect him. He's obviously not going to get picked. He stays healthy for the first half of the year, maybe builds up some value, and some team is super interested in him, and he can be an addition to a trade. But yeah, that's it. John Rhodes is the one that's just like it's disappointing to see his name there and to be like, yeah, he's not going to get protected, obviously. And like, do you even protect him on the minor league side and try to keep him around? I don't know if they do.
Yeah, there's so much outfield depth, and he just has really not put it together yet. And it's a shame because you can see flashes of it. Yeah, there are times where he's hitting the ball hard. He's playing a good right field, and you can see that the pieces are there for him, but he just has not been able to really put it together and have a solid season at this point in his career. Let's go over, though, to the guy that is the lock. That's Brandon Young, the Orioles minor league pitcher of the year. Had an excellent year coming back from his second Tommy John surgery, 111 innings between Bowie and Norfolk, with the bulk of them at Norfolk, struck out 132 batters while walking just 37. And what was impressive was that when he was promoted from AA to AAA, he didn't regress in a lot, or at least have a major regression in a lot of the areas that we're used to seeing pitchers struggle in when they get up to AAA, which is home runs and walks. He kind of kept those in check. And honestly, if the Orioles pitching staff had not been able to work its way through September, despite the thin resources that it had or the thin depth that it had, Young might have already been added to the 40-man roster. But I think the Orioles didn't really need to put him on. He had already thrown a lot of innings, so I think they wisely decided to shut him down. But now the time has come to put him on the 40-man, and I fully expect that that's going to happen.
Yep, I think this is the one guaranteed lock. We've talked about the stuff over and over again. We've had Lance Brzdowski on the show. He highlighted his stuff when his Substack came on here and talked about Brandon Young. The stuff can be phenomenal. There are unique characteristics about his stuff and delivery that explain why the fastball, he doesn't always have the biggest fastball velo, but it is a massive swing and miss pitch because he has some unique characteristics with that. If he's not a top 100 prospect to start 2025 season on these national lists, he's going to be right outside on the fringes of every top 100 prospect list. You talked about September and the Orioles luckily working through that, but Michael Ash name dropped Brandon Young at the end of last season as a potential option and that he was on the radar. Michael Ash used all those phrases and keywords, the tip of the tongue talk. He did all that with Brandon Young that he always does with these prospects right before they get called up. Even though he only pitched 53 innings between 2022 and 2023 because he had his second Tommy John surgery, but he came back, the velo actually ticked up a little bit. The stuff got better. I think just his composure on the mound got better. Everything about Brandon Young took a massive leap forward. And you mentioned the 111 innings. That's a lot for a guy who really hasn't pitched a ton professionally. He was a free agent, undrafted free agent in 2020. So even had a 2020 season shortened because of the pandemic when he was at college. He's 6'6". He's got that deep pitch mix. He's 5 or 6 pitches. The fastball gets a ton of whiffs. All of his pitches get whiffs. Even coached by a former Orioles all-star closer in BJ Ryan. BJ Ryan was his pitching coach in college. I think this guy is going to be in competition for a rotation spot, possibly be a key contributor out of the bullpen, maybe to start the year. But I think more realistically, he probably starts the year back in Norfolk, but he's one phone call away. And I think he's a big name to watch this spring.
Absolutely. Now, looking at the rest of this list, and it's a really long list, and thank you for putting it together before the show. It's a really long list, and I don't know that we're going to get through all the names, but I think generally speaking, you can look at these players in tiers. And I'm going to start with one that I think really is big in this class, which is high upside arm that seems unlikely to be chosen by another organization because of either injury or a general lack of experience. And some of the guys that fit that mold include Gene Pinto, who is coming back from Tommy John surgery, Juan Nunez, who missed most of last year with a shoulder injury, Edgar Portes, who had a nice breakout season at Aberdeen last year, but has yet to pitch above A-ball. You could go on to a few other guys that fit this mold. Kyle Bronovich had Tommy John a couple of years ago. Doesn't really seem like he's all the way back from that. Carter Ballmer is another one. Has had a lot of injuries. It was at one point one of the top pitching prospects in this farm system. He is Rule 5 eligible this year. So out of that group, you could throw Zach Peak in there too. I don't know that any of these guys are protected in the major league phase, but there's definitely some big priorities in the minor league phase. And you hope that with better health, these guys are pushing for a 40-man spot by late next season.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams, and yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Between bad calls and intense rivalries, there's enough to stress about on game day. Keep your mind on the field and off your body odor with Dove Men Plus Care Whole Body Deodorant. Available at Walmart. Dove Men Whole Body Deo provides all-day odor protection from your pits, privates to feed. From pregame analysis to halftime insights to unexpected overtimes, Dove Men Whole Body Deo gives you confidence that lasts all day. Pick it up at your local Walmart.
Yeah, this is where it's not an unlimited list of guys you can protect. I don't know exactly how many guys it is you can protect in the minor league phase, but it's not a ton. And so when you have this big group of arms, like you want to keep Gene Pinto in. It was Tommy John surgery. It was really unfortunate. You want him in this organization. You want Juan Nunez, without a shadow of a doubt, in this organization next year. You want Edgar Portes in this organization next year. Those are all guys you need to protect. Even Zach Peak is another one who I feel like, I don't know, like those injuries. We're all Zach Peak fans. Zach Peak has a very loyal fan base among a small group of Orioles fans. They are small but very loyal Zach Peak fans for many good reasons. Awesome dude, great pitcher, even better person. From when we've talked to him, get to know him a little bit, but he's had a lot of major injuries. So do you risk that? Do you take a spot to protect him? Yeah, it's a lot of these like Portes. I think there was deliberate effort by the Orioles to keep guys like Portes in high A. Juan Nunez, would he have been promoted to Double A before the end of the season? Yeah, I think they kept a lot of these guys down in A ball to risk other teams are certainly not going to take Edgar Portes in the Rule 5 draft, the Major League phase, the Rule 5 draft, when he hasn't even pitched in Double A left yet. So you can keep him in the organization and you can punt that decision until the trade deadline. You can punt that decision until next year and see what he can do in 2026. But yeah, I don't see any of these guys you're going to take the gamble on and put on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of upside here, especially with Nunez, Portes, and Pinto. But I don't think you have to take that gamble, and I don't think you necessarily want to in an offseason where you have clear pressing needs, but not necessarily a lot of 40-man roster spots to go around. And I'll go now to a different tier that is something that could fly under the radar easily, but one you got to really watch when it comes to the Rule 5 draft. And that's relief prospects who have big question marks, but are within a reasonable proximity to the major leagues. Maybe they have some AAA time or a lot of AA experience and would likely start next year in AAA. Keegan Gillies, who we know has a lot of fans in the Orioles organization, and a lot of people are high on. Good stuff. He is Rule 5 eligible this year. Cade Stroud, who at points last year was one of the better pure relief prospects in this organization, but couldn't really establish a stretch of consistency after he got to Norfolk. He is Rule 5 eligible this year. Dylan Hyde, a lot of people in the organization, again, really like Dylan Hyde. He is going to be out there this year. Then you throw in some other names. Tyler Burtz, who came in a Freddie Galvis deal back in 2021. Kyle Verbitsky, Dan Hammer. Daniel Fetterman is another one that is Rule 5 eligible this year. And then you could go even further down to the Daniel Lloyd and Ryan Long group. And then some guys that have kind of been frenzy starters like Peter Van Loon. So it feels like, especially if you want to look at Gillies and Stroud, I think, and maybe Hyde too, could be someone that if you have a team that really believes in their stuff and wants to take a chance on them, despite either their lack of AAA experience or their lack of consistent success at AAA, in the case of Stroud. But again, feels like it might be a little bit of a reach. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think Stroud was eligible last year, and we had a lot of discussion about him, and no one selected him. I don't. He had, again, it was one of those years where if you really dig into Stroud's numbers, you can find a successful season, but I don't really see any need to protect him there. Houston Roth and Tyler Bircher in the Arizona Fall League right now. So it's interesting, like, wonder why exactly are they out there? Is it to get one last look as maybe one of them, especially Birch, if he showed enough in the Arizona Fall League, could he be a sneaky protection right-hander to work out of the bullpen? He's an older guy, been around for many years in this organization. I think the one guy that is super interesting, though, is Keegan Gillies, just because, yes, he didn't get to AAA. They held him back this year. All 47 innings were down in AA. Probably should have earned, he did earn himself a promotion, I think, to AAA this year, but didn't get it. And I almost wonder again if that was deliberate by the Orioles, because that's a guy who, if I think about a Rule 5 draft pick, you're available in the Rule 5 draft for a reason. And if Keegan Gillies is available, yeah, he didn't go to AAA yet, but he's 26 years old already. He's 6'8". He has a lethal splitter. I go back before the season, scroll back through the Locked On Orioles feed. He did an interview with Locked On Orioles. I think it was in spring training, right before spring training last year. I mean, the guy is, you talk about Felix Bautista comps, Felix Bautista-esque, like that's a guy who he can model his game after, because he's a tall righty with that splitter. I'm not saying he's anywhere near the talent that Felix Bautista is or ever will be, but you get the idea. That's a guy who, if I'm another major league organization and I'm looking at the Rule 5 draft, if I see Keegan Gillies available, I'm thinking about it. Guy who's 6'8", got the splitter, got the velo, got a couple of secondaries as well, strikes out a lot of guys. I might try to work with that. So I think that could be a sneaky addition that the Orioles maybe think about a little bit harder.
Yeah, if you're looking for an under-the-radar name that could get protected, I think it's Gillies. And you're right. I think that he did earn a promotion to AAA last year. Why that didn't happen, I don't know. I think there is something to what you said about maybe them not wanting to expose him too much, and then holding him back was a way to do that. But I wouldn't rule him out. And then I think that for pitchers like Dylan Hyde, 2025 could be a really big year to making their case. Now, there's another name I've got to throw out in this grouping of pitchers, because he's been pitching pretty well in winter ball. We've talked about him a lot on this show. That's Carlos Tavera. Just when we start to believe in Carlos Tavera, he'll get roughed up for a month. He'll put together one of the worst statistical months of any pitcher in the organization. Then we'll cool off of him a little bit, and then he'll pick it back up again, only to cool off again. This has been the pattern with Tavera his whole career since he was drafted by the Orioles. It's undeniable that he's got really good stuff. But as we saw after he was promoted to AAA last year, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, Carlos Tavera, that relationship, it's one I can't give up. Even though I tell myself over and over, it's done. We're done. Again, yeah, he has that one outing. I sit there, he's back in Bowie, and it's like, all right, it's a Bowie afternoon game. There's nothing else on TV. I'm going to sit down and watch the Bay Sox this afternoon while I'm doing some work. Carlos Tavera's on the mound. He has a great outing. It sucks me back in. Yeah, he's pitching phenomenally in Mexico this offseason. I mean, he's pitching like once a week down there, and I feel like it's 6 innings of shutout ball. It's 5 innings of shutout ball with like 1 to 2 walks and 6-7 strikeouts. Phenomenal season in Mexico. But I mean, that's Mexican winter ball. Like, what is that? AA, maybe AAA quality competition that he's facing. It's not the best competition, so take those numbers with a huge grain of salt. And like you mentioned, when he got to AAA, he actually pitched a lot more innings in AAA than I thought he did. I thought it was just kind of a cup of coffee, but he actually pitched 47 innings in AAA last season. That's significant. He had a 15.6% walk rate. The strikeout rate was sub 20%. The ERA was like almost 7, above 7, well, 7.47, so almost 8. The FIP and XFIP was a run better at 6.44. It did not go well for Tavera. The changeup is mesmerizing. It's when he's on, like you said, he is on. But man, you know when you watch Carlos Tavera, you know in the first batter he faces whether or not it's going to be a good day or a bad day. And like you said, you hit the nail on the head. When it rains, it pours with Tavera, and it rained a lot last year. So he's definitely in a tier of his own, I think. And it's a very weird tier, but yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see if he's still in the organization come when spring training rolls around next year.
Again, one of those guys that I don't think you're going to protect with a major league spot, but minor league spot, maybe because of the stuff you prioritize, but we'll see. There's two guys that I've purposely been holding back here in this conversation because I think they kind of warrant their own discussion, and that's Justin Armbruster and Alex Pham. I think with Armbruster coming into this year, he would have been one of those guys that was towards the top of the list of they're definitely going to protect this guy. All he has to do is go out and do what he did last year because Armbruster followed up a strong 2022 with an even better 2023, but 2024, you look at the numbers, the raw stat line is not good, but it doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, which is that fastball velocity was up this year. He had an excellent month of July, but everything around that was pretty bad. And what we saw in games where he struggled was hitters just pouncing on that fastball and him getting into holes early that he couldn't get his way out of. Yet through all of that, he logged 119 AAA innings last year, struck out 131 batters. You can see the stuff on an outing-to-outing basis. While it's not always effective, there are times where it can look pretty good. So what is Armbruster standing right now? I don't think he's going to be protected, but there's a larger conversation to be had with him despite his numbers last year.
$5 says he is protected. Just that's the what's his name? The reliever who really stood out in Arizona Fall. I think he's with the Padres now. Gillespie.
Oh, Logan Gillespie.
Yeah, that was like, what? No, this is a really tough one, and it's the same thing when people ask just questions about Armbruster, or we would bring up Armbruster during the regular season and try to have a segment about him and talk about him. My answer's still the same. I don't know. It was just weird. I mean, this guy, yeah, we looked at the data. This was before he got to AAA, and we got our hands on some data, and it was like, man, this guy took a massive leap forward. This stuff is really good. The fastball metrics, I mean, he had some metrics that were equal to like a Grayson Rodriguez fastball. Like this, I loved looking at some of his early data when he was in, I think it was AA when we were looking at that. But since he got to AAA, like you mentioned, yeah, he struggled to find the strike zone, and then he would use the fastball to get back into the zone, and it would get shelled. Armbruster is, I would love to have a conversation with someone better in the know who has a connection within the organization and knows exactly what their view is of Armbruster, because I'm desperate to find out. I don't think he gets protected. I have a hard time seeing another organization taking a flyer on him, though. Honestly, I think you're at the point where you leave him unprotected, and if he gets picked, then you say, best of luck. But if he doesn't get picked and you can hopefully maybe protect him in the minor league phase and give him one more year, I'd be down for that.
I'll throw this out about Armbruster before we move on to Pham. Let's suppose that he is back in the organization next year. Do you think he's back as a starter because he can give you that length? Or do you think that they maybe pivot to putting him in a relief role and seeing if it will click there for him?
I mean, if you go off and depends on what they do for the major league rotation. If you can obviously if you go out and trade for a starter, you might have to dip into and trade, the Chase McDermott. You might have to trade some of those depth arms down there in Norfolk. You might have to trade a Brandon Young. I don't know. But if you're trading for a top line pitcher and they want pitching prospects back and they're looking at some of these guys in AAA, the Cade Povich, Chase McDermott, whatever, then if you can keep Armbruster around, he's probably back in Norfolk's rotation. But if you can enter next year and Brandon Young's in Norfolk's rotation, Trevor Rogers is down there, Povich or McDermott are down there, I say we got a lot of starter depth. Let's transition you to the bullpen next year and see if we can get some better results next year in that role.
We'll go now to Alex Pham, because this was probably one of the better turnaround stories that we saw in the 2024 season. Now, mind you, Pham broke out with a pretty solid 2023 between Aberdeen and Bowie, and he did so in the rotation after being a reliever at college at the University of San Francisco and at the beginning of his professional career. He sticks in the rotation, returns to Bowie to start 2024, and the first couple of months for him were rough. A lot of the same problems we were just talking about with Armbruster a moment ago were true for Pham. Struggling to find the strike zone some outings. When he would find the strike zone, it was usually with the fastball. Hitters would pounce on it, giving up way more home runs than he had in the past in the early stages of the season. Then all of a sudden, July rolled around, a switch flipped, and over the final 2.5 months of the season, he was arguably the best pitcher in the Orioles minor league system. And he ended up finishing second in the minors in strikeouts behind only Chase McDermott. McDermott fanned 144 batters. Pham whiffed 138. He did so in 119 innings pitched. That said, never made it out of Bowie this year. And you could speculate for the reasons why. Maybe he turned it on too late in the year, but I kind of have a hard time buying that one. Maybe the Orioles just didn't see an opening for him at AAA. Maybe they did want to hold him back and not expose him to a higher level, because if Pham had gotten to AAA and had some success, he would probably be talked about right now as a guy that you have to protect or you're going to lose. But now, to me, he's the wild card of this class. He could be protected. He might not be protected. And if he's not protected, I honestly don't know what's going to happen, because the case for taking him is actually a pretty good one. Yeah, he doesn't throw hard, but he's got a good curveball. He's coming off of back-to-back successful years in the minor leagues. He could be a starter for you. He could be a bullpen guy. But if you're a bad team that doesn't have a whole lot to lose, there's some upside in taking Pham. But I can also point out that he is yet to pitch in AAA. The jump from AA to AAA is more challenging, arguably, for pitchers than it has been at any point in recent history. And the jump from AAA to the majors is even more difficult. So he's not a guarantee to stick. So this is why I kind of see Pham as, I said, the biggest wild card in this group. How do you feel about Pham at this point?
It's definitely really tough. Because, yeah, you can make the argument as to why he shouldn't be protected. But at the same time, it's like a lot of the reasons are positives. Like, they're not even negatives that are going to hurt him. Like, I don't think you have to protect him. I think would be like my final answer here. Maybe you do so just to be safe. But like I said earlier about guys, you kept him in AA all year. He dominated for a long stretch. I think he completely deserved to be promoted to AAA. But you hold him back. What if he did get promoted to AAA, and even if it was just 3 or 4 starts, but they were good 3 or 4 starts, then I get more worried, and I say you have to protect him. But yeah, I think for a lot of the reasons you mentioned there, I think you can take the risk here and not protect Pham, and I don't think he would be selected. He's got 5 pitches. He's got that over-the-top delivery that so many arms in the system have. Yeah, it's a 92-mile-an-hour fastball that can maybe get up to like, 95, 96, but it's hoppier than this beer I'm drinking right here. And I only drink really hoppy beers, so it's a hoppy fastball. I haven't seen any outlet give him like any plus grades on any of those pitches. There's 5 plus, I think he might even have 6 pitches, but they're average across the board. And so, like, if you're a major league team looking to take a AA pitcher in the Rule 5 draft who you have to keep on your major league roster all year, is Pham good? Pham, he's a 19th round pick out of San Francisco as a reliever. Like, how many teams had eyes on him in college? Was he heavily scouted coming out of college? Probably not. And so how many teams are willing to buy on Fam's success that he's had so far? It's not much, and it's in the lower levels of the minor leagues and a couple months there in Double-A. The first half of the year was bad when he was in Double-A. It was, first 2 months of the season, 42 innings pitched. He had a 26% strikeout rate, but a 12% walk rate and an ERA of 6.6. And in the last 4 months of the season, 77 innings pitched, strikeout rate went up to almost 29%. The walk rate went down to 9%, and the ERA was 2.92. If you're another team, do you buy that? Which version of Pham do you think is the real Alex Pham? And do you think he can continue to start? That's a big question as well. Are you going to use a Rule 5 pick on him to be a reliever? I don't know. I don't think you need to protect him, but I think the Orioles remain pretty high on Pham. It was actually Forrest Herman, the new director of pitching for the Orioles, who reached out to Pham and said, hey, we want you to be a starter. Are you down? And Pham said, yeah. And here we are. And so I think the Orioles are super high on Pham, but won't feel the need to protect him this year. And I think they get away with it.
Yeah, I agree. And it's an interesting connection there to note with Forrest Herman. And that's something I think we're going to be talking about a lot this offseason, is the role that he could have in really shaping the pitching strategy for this whole organization going forward. But I just kind of took a quick look here, and it's possible that I might have missed something. But first of all, looking back at last year's Rule 5 draft, and man, it was really slow at the major league level. Not a lot of teams making selections. But from what I can tell, the only pitcher who was chosen in the major league phase that did not have at least some AAA experience was Matt Sauer, who was taken with the second pick by the Royals from the Yankees. He only lasted 2 months with the Royals before he was returned to the Yankees. So take that sample size for what it's worth, but I do think that there is value in AAA time, even if it's not completely extensive or a full season or even half a season, because it is a big adjustment. So I think that Pham would have had to really dominate wire to wire to make an overwhelming case to be selected without AAA experience. Is it possible that he's taken? Yes, but I think you brought up a good point as well, which is not something I considered, which is that Pham is in the conversation, but you don't see his name surface in a lot of those national articles about, here are these pitchers at Double-A with really good pitch data. You were hearing that about Brandon Young going back to the early stages of last year. We've been hearing that about Keegan Gillies for a while. Pham doesn't really seem to factor into those discussions, though.
Yeah, I mean, even other guys on this list, Edgar Portis, he's in Baseball America all the time for some of his stuff. I mean, I think Pham is a guy who the Orioles have their type. They have groomed him in a way that they think he can be successful, and it's worked so far up to this point. And I don't think, given his size, he's a smaller guy. He doesn't have the big velo. He doesn't have that elite standout tool. So I think there are a lot of traits that he possesses that other teams just don't covet. And so that limits, I think, the number of teams who would be interested. Like you mentioned, the Rule 5 draft, I think, like, I haven't even done any research as to other teams' availabilities. I'm not going to this year, to be honest. I had a lot of fun doing it the last couple of years. I had a lot of fun talking about those guys, but I don't even think I'm going to look into who else is out there that could be attracted to the Orioles, because do the Orioles make a pick? I really don't think they make a pick again in the major league level again. Not a lot of teams are. So that's another reason why. I mean, we sat here and worried about Kyle Branovich and Hudson Haskin last year, and they did not get picked. And so I think you can keep Pham. You can let him do his thing in AAA. Like, there's the new ball. Like, you got a new ball he's got to deal with, and you see a lot of guys struggle with that. You got the ABS system. You see a lot of guys struggle with that. There's a lot of learning curve. This was something that I wish we would have gotten into more when we had Nico Goodrum on the show. I think it would have helped shape our conversations even more here about those differences between AAA and the big leagues. From a hitter's perspective, I think would have been valuable. But yeah, and I think all those things are reasons why you can point to, you can get away with not protecting Pham. He's back. He's a top 30 prospect in the system, and let's see what he can do in AAA next year.
Anyone else that we missed? And as I said, it's a long list. Is there anybody that we didn't discuss that maybe you want to bring up before we wrap this up?
No, let's see. Young says like Fam, Tavera, Brewster, Branovich. No, I don't even know if Branovich is going to be around next year. Juan Nunez Pinto. If you want to get super, super sneaky as a whoa, they actually did it. They protected him. I kind of want to give that pick to Peter Van Loon. I think Peter Van Loon might be a breakout guy next year. I don't know. He missed the first, half, maybe more than half of last season with an injury. He had a stretch there where he was one of the top pitchers in the entire system. When he was out in the Arizona Fall League last year, you saw a lot of great data on Van Loon. He pitched in, was it the championship game? I think it was one of the few games that comes on the MLB network. He lit up his Baseball Savant page in that one inning he pitched. I don't think they protect him, but Peter Van Loon could be a fun discussion down the road. I think that was it. Logan Reinhart, Kyle Verbitsky, he got sent back to high A this year. Dan Hammer, my boy Juan de Los Santos. That's it. Nothing there. But yeah, I would say Peter Van Loon. If you want to get super sneaky, Peter Van Loon would be a name.
Yeah, I love Van Loon's curveball and the way that he can move his fastball around the zone. There's a lot to like about Van Loon, and I don't think they protect him, but if he could get half a season, I think that if he can get to Norfolk next year and put together some good numbers, we're going to be talking about him a lot more. And with that does it for our coverage this week. We will be back next week to talk a lot more Orioles offseason. In the meantime, you can catch us on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, and YouTube. We're also over at Substack, OriolesOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to Patreon and sign up to become a member today. You're going to get bonus coverage there throughout the offseason and during the regular season. In the offseason, we'll be delivering our top 50 prospects countdown. You won't want to miss that. And you've got the opportunity after you sign up to gift a membership. A new feature Patreon is rolled out in time for the holidays. So go over our Patreon and check that out today. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Sped. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, presented by BetOnline and part of the Believe Podcast Network.
HBCUs, they're more than just schools, right? They're where we learn, grow, and build. It's a place where we're free to be ourselves, innovate, and live our best lives while chasing those dreams and, yes, securing that bag. But the journey to success is not always easy. That's why Walmart is here for you every step of the way. From late night study sessions to game day celebration, Walmart's got your back, helping you manifest those big, audacious dreams. Whether you're starting a business, climbing the career ladder, or figuring it all out, Walmart is here supporting Black excellence at HBCUs. At the end of the day, your hustle, your creativity, and your journey matter. Walmart, we're all about empowering you with the spark to keep pushing forward. So let's get to it together. Learn more about how we are amplifying your story at walmart.com/Black and Unlimited. It's your journey, and we're proud to be a part of it.
At Kroger Pharmacy, CARE is making it easy to get vaccinated. CARE is helping you stay protected from flu, COVID, and RSV. Seasonal vaccines are available 7 days a week with evening hours. CARE is giving you a shot at staying healthy this season. Walk in whenever is best and get multiple vaccines in one visit at your local Kroger pharmacy. So come and get the protection you need while protecting those around you. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Visit Kroger.com/vaccines for more. Restrictions and exclusions apply. See site for details.
Bingo.
All right, Phil, we're recording now, so it's live. Go ahead. Pick on me the way that you want to.
Did I say that? I wouldn't say that to my son. Man, I mean, come on, man.
Just go. This isn't CBS.
All right, be quiet for a few seconds. Why would people want to listen to the Sims Complete podcast? Well, a couple things. One, if you like to see sons pick on their father, this might be the place. If you want to see a place where the father just kicks the out of his son, this would be the place. What do you like about it, Matt?
Ditto. Father-son dynamic duo talking about the game of football that we love and share and appreciate together. And, hey, it's an extension of what we did, right? Growing up, I was able to watch my father play football than obviously watch him as a broadcaster. And then he taught me the game of football and shared the wisdom that he learned throughout his playing career. And, hey, sometimes we're full of it and sometimes we actually know a thing or two.
Well, we do a lot of research. At least I do. You're a little spotty, but you hang in there.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love doing this, and it's been awesome.
Sims Complete. Check us out wherever your podcasts are available on the Believe Network. Appreciate it. See ya.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.